more consistent demand management over time, and it's not emergency.
I want to add one thing. This isn't a groundwater conservation district issue, but it is. I come from the city of Lubbock, and one of the other problems that we have also, I agree with Charlene, is not only, we have small community. I sat in a city council meeting the other day of a very small community here in Lubbock, and they were considering putting watering restrictions on their lawns. Well, they can't do that because of the way their structure is set up. They won't be able to pay for the maintenance on their system. Forget delivering a drop of water, just the maintenance. But what's happened also is when most of the water systems were put in across the United States, that was 75 to 100 years ago. Well, concrete lasts 75 to 100 years. What nobody did, most municipalities, and even Lubbock, the one that I live in now, they didn't put money aside to replace that infrastructure. So not only are they grappling with acquiring new water sources, managing water consumption, but now they have the huge expense of replacing water systems. I'm sorry, the actual physical infrastructure that gets water from place to place. And we see that even when we were promulgating our rules, we paid special attention to our small municipalities, because one thing that we didn't want to do is harm them to the extent that the community itself could no longer sustain itself because it couldn't produce wells, it couldn't produce water from the existing wells. That goes into a lot of issues inside of our rules, but that was a very viable, I'm not going to say viable because that means living. It's definitely something to consider out there. It compounds every single thing we do. We've gotten water so inexpensively, and I can't remember which one of you said, it's basically been free until recently, and we've never paid the value, we've never paid what it was valued at, and now we're going to have to, and it's going to upset most people because it's truly expensive to go back in time. But that's one thing I wanted to add to it's not just consumers being able to use the water and use less, which we definitely, that's what everybody wants. They want every drop used exactly right. But we still have some delivery issues that cities are quite honestly required by law to make at certain levels. So that's another thing to compound all of this, is just an aging infrastructure. And that's a big one that often folks don't realize because it's underground, you don't see it. So anyway, that's something to add to that.
Kristen, do you want to speak to that?
Okay. I want to hear Renee has a question.
Let's go ahead and open it up to questions. Can you stand and state your name?
My name is Cynthia Barnett. I'm the author of a couple of water books, Mirage and Blue Revolution. My question is for Kristen, but first I wanted to follow up with Sherry to make sure I understand the 50%. Judy said the projections are off, but even if they're right, if 50% of the water in storage by 2011 will be left by 2060, isn't your community saying that your water will be gone in 100 years?
She used the term sustainability. What the term I hear running around mostly is managed depletion is really what it is.
So you are saying that?
Well, yeah, it is. Now, we'll tell you that one thing that Judy says that is imperative is, oh, that's right, is what is the next economy to take us into the future? You're right, it is agriculture for us right now, but is it going to be agriculture forever? Probably, I agree with what she's saying. We need to be looking forward. The district, and I can just tell you that it's out there, I can't speak to it, but the district actually worked with Texas Tech on doing an economic study of the results of our rules, and you can find that on our website. So our board members are they realize what they're doing. They're trying very hard not to wipe agriculture out now. We would like agriculture to take us forever. Can it be done? I don't know, and I'm not even qualified to look at what Judy's produced. But I will tell you one thing: the groundwater management plan that we are required to have, we have to look at it every 5 years to see if it's going in the direction. Do we need to raise the stakes? Do we need to lower them? What are the options out there? We can look at it and change it as frequently as we want, but we are mandated by law to look at it every single 5 years. every 5-year period. And so we're at the beginning of the DFC, the Desire Future Condition, we call it DFC. We're at the beginning of that project right now. In fact, we've only got, I think, not even a year under our belt yet. And so we're very interested to see where it goes with our rules as well. We also can't impose any rules without public input, and it's a public rulemaking process. So when the board set out their original set of rules, we had several months and several public hearings worth of input to help us come up with those rules, and that's also where we came up with the rules. So, and like I said, I can't articulate what she's got. Our hydrologist probably could, but like I said, managed depletion is a term that is used around us as well. And I don't know if Judy can speak to it or cares to, but I don't know that recharge is an option for us. I think usage is our solution. Would you agree? So recharging the aquifer it's not going to happen. So it is going to be our usage. And of course, the least expensive water you will ever buy is the water you don't use. So that's.
To restate the question, what she asked was, aren't you going to run out of water? Go ahead, Judy.
I'll just add that the management goal is to manage depletion. There is no intent of sustainability on the Southern High Plains, as far as recharge is concerned, the recharge to the aquifer naturally is just from precipitation, what falls on the Southern High Plains and percolates down to the aquifer. That's, roughly, it varies from place to place, but you could consider it less than like a half an inch a year. For the last 50 years, our historical record, we're depleting the aquifer by over a foot a year. This last year, an average, with the drought conditions, we depleted it on average 2.54 feet. So there's a huge discrepancy there.
I'll just say, this is not just a problem in the High Plains, and many of you probably know that, but another area that is similarly, I don't even know if they're managing depletion or if they're just depleting right now, is Central Valley in California, which, altogether, I think both regions produce about $60 billion worth of agricultural products a year.
Shirley, can you lean in?
Yeah, and this is one of the largest food sources in the United States. So this is not just a story of the High Plains, but it's happening throughout the West in ways that are going to touch consumers all over the world.
When I had a question for Kristen, but I didn't realize that first one would take so long. So if
Okay.
you want someone else to go.
I think you want to address that too, don't you?
Well, I'd like to hear a question. I might be able to tie
Okay,
it in.
well,
so.
I'll go ahead and ask the other question then, because it was about your major theme, energy.
Right.
You said that 90% of the power we use requires water, and you also said we need to figure out how to come up with more water to supply energy demand. So my question is, why is energy not seeing that same trend that ag and urban use are seeing of less water use over time? What is the 10% of energy supply that's not using water, and why can't we shift? Why can't we shift on energy in the ways we have in urban and agricultural use?
So the question is, why isn't energy using less water?
Right. I will say there are, in general, overall trends in the future in terms. Yes, sorry, I need to lean in. I need to remember the rules. So right now, about half the power plants in the United States, so let's talk specifically west of the Mississippi. They use a process that's a thermoelectric cooling process where it's evaporative cooling. They take water into a power plant, and then you see it again, I said the plumes of steam that are evaporated. In the east of the Mississippi, most of the power plants use a once-through process. They take water into the power plant, and then they dump the water back into a river, a lake, or a reservoir. The rules, and these are some policies coming out of EPA, are changing, such that all new power plants are very likely to employ not the once-through technology, but these evaporative cooling technologies. That means that we can expect in the future declines in overall water withdrawals from the electricity and power industry. However, the power